24 Marines, 16 Navy SEALs, same battlefield, different playbook. In this hypothetical matchup, we're putting a 24-man Marine platoon, not a standard 14-man Marine Raider MSOT, against a 16-man Navy SEAL squad. Treat these numbers as a thought experiment, not official doctrine. SEALs are sea, air, and land, specialists formalized in 1962, tracing roots to World War II, Scouts and UDTs. Marine Raiders share World War II origins and today form the Marine Corps' Special Operations Arm, under MARSOS. The Marines bring massed firepower, disciplined formations, and a focus on holding ground. The SEALs counter with stealth, precision, and hit-and-fade tactics. We'll break the fight down phase by phase, who makes first contact, how each side maneuvers, and what the decisive move looks like. So let's set the stage. Two elite forces, same hostile terrain. The first move is about to decide who controls the fight. Picture yourself moving through a dense coastal jungle. Visibility is barely more than the length of a city bus, and the air is thick enough to slow each breath. You pick up faint movement, branches shifting, leaves crunching under boots. But distance is impossible to judge. Out here, the first glimpse of the enemy might also be the last. This is where initial contact strategy decides who gains the edge. For Marines, doctrine emphasizes establishing fire superiority fast. They prioritize bounding overwatch, anchoring machine gun positions, and laying down suppressive fire to freeze the enemy before advancing. This isn't reckless aggression. It's rooted in their small unit heritage, shaped in part by Raider innovations like the 3-man fire team and 10-man squad, which gave the Corps a flexible but forceful way to close on a threat quickly. That mindset pushes them to set the tempo early, relying on coordinated fire to force the enemy into reacting rather than acting. A SEAL squad sees the problem differently. Their training drives them to hold fire, observe, and pick the exact moment to strike for maximum effect. SEALs prioritize reconnaissance and targeting high-value assets, direct action aimed at leaders, radios, crew-served weapons, rather than engaging in immediate massed contact. That plays to their insertion heritage across sea, air, and land, where success depends on arriving unseen, striking hard, and slipping away before the larger force can retaliate. The tension is obvious. One side seeks to trigger contact to dictate the fight. The other works to delay and control when and where it starts. In a place like this, neither can hold to their preferred timeline for long. For the Marines, waiting too long risks stumbling into a well-prepared kill zone that erases their numerical advantage. For the SEALs, taking too much time risks losing track of enemy positions as the larger unit spreads out, or worse, getting pinned by sudden, concentrated fire. So, who fires first? And which choice actually creates the opening the other side fears? History shows both approaches can pay off. When Marine Raiders landed on Tulagi during the Guadalcanal campaign in August 1942, small, coordinated amphibious strikes seized key positions quickly, shaping the next phase of operations before defenders could mount an organized response. By contrast, the underwater demolition teams, the SEALs' direct predecessors, excelled in reconnaissance and beach obstacle clearance in World War II and Korea, collecting precise intelligence and removing threats before the main assault ever hit shore. Both examples prove that whether through speed on the ground or stealth before contact, shaping the battle early can tilt its outcome. In practical terms, a Marine platoon moves with fire teams leapfrogging, one suppressing while another advances. Their light and medium machine guns deliver bursts to lock down openings, creating windows for riflemen to push forward. The goal is to overwhelm through pressure, forcing the fight into close range before the enemy can withdraw. It's a system designed to snowball momentum once the first rounds are fired. For SEALs, the sequence is slower but pinpointed. Observation leads to identification. Identification leads to removal of those assets that keep the enemy coordinated and dangerous. A well-timed strike against a radio operator or a gun crew can collapse a platoon's battlefield awareness, letting the smaller force disengage or reposition before the enemy recovers. But each method carries risk. Aggressive movement without intelligence turns into walking into someone else's trap. Waiting for the perfect shot can mean missing it entirely or getting caught in the open by an opponent who now has the initiative. In the jungle, With its short sightlines and constant concealment, these risks compound fast. You can think of the contrast like tools in a kit. The Marine platoon moves like a hammer, applying force as quickly as possible to shape the battle. The SEALs act like a scalpel, slicing at the points that matter most. Choose the wrong tool for the problem, and the result is wasted effort, or worse, a fight you can't win. Once the first rounds are exchanged, both sides have committed. At that point, the contest shifts into a different phase entirely. Sustained firepower against mobility, mass against maneuver, and each force testing how far their chosen strengths can carry them. Once contact starts, the fight shifts into a test of movement under fire. In this scenario, we've said the Marines are a full 24-man conventional rifle platoon, not a standard 14-man Marine Raider MSOT. That extra size gives them more sustained fire capability, but also a larger footprint to manage. For the Marines, sustained firepower is built into their organization. They operate as coordinated fire teams, an innovation with roots in early Raider doctrine that allows one element to suppress while another maneuvers. Within the platoon, machine gunners lock down approaches, riflemen cover sectors, and grenadiers use 40mm rounds to deny movement through key terrain. On level or predictable ground, this coverage stretches like a net, making every attempt at crossing costly. They don't just fire in all directions. They create a system of overlapping fields that funnels the fight into zones they can control. The SEALs bring less overall volume of fire, but they trade that for speed and unpredictability. Their smaller element isn't tied down to set positions or a dense chain of command. They use cover to mask movement, shift angles quickly, and adapt without waiting for orders to work their way through the ranks. SEAL training covers multi-domain ingress by sea, air, or land. Combined with demolition skills, this means they can slip in through routes the Marines can't easily guard, from a waterline exit point to a helicopter drop on elevated ground. Picture the exchange. The Marines move forward in bounding overwatch, one element suppressing suspected positions, while the other advances. The rhythm is steady. Fire, move, fire, move. In response, the SEALs avoid trying to match that firepower head-on. They use the noise and focus of the Marine push to mask smaller movements, slipping a 2- or 3-man element through dense foliage, a low gully, or a shallow waterway, until they can take a flanking shot from terrain the Marines thought was secure. Their ability to weave in and out like this extends into vertical and lateral angles. A few SEALs could enter through the waterline under concealment, or they might insert unseen on a ridge to hit from behind. In either case, the goal is to make the Marines split their attention and dilute their fire net. A large formation can't cover every approach every moment, and the SEALs train to find and exploit that gap. Both forces have vulnerabilities once the maneuver game starts. For Marines, pushing too far to chase threats opens seams in the line. A quick enemy could punch through and attack the platoon's depth before they can realign. For SEALs, the constraint is endurance and ammunition. Operating without heavy organic logistics means every extra burst they fire eats into finite supplies, and the longer the fight runs, the clearer the advantage shifts toward the bigger force that can sustain its rate of fire. That size difference also plays into control of visible ground. The Marines can place more guns on more sectors, forcing SEALs to work harder to find attack angles. But mass is slower to turn. If the Marines get caught in mid-shift, smaller, faster units can hit and be gone before every sector is recovered. As minutes pass, both sides learn the other's patterns. The Marines see how the SEALs vanish under pressure only to appear elsewhere. The SEALs recognize the discipline holding the Marine net together. Each choice becomes higher risk. Take ground and risk a flank, hold position and risk being enveloped from multiple angles. Terrain tips the balance. Wide open ground with clear sightlines favors the Marines' ability to lock lanes with intersecting fire. Broken or concealed routes stacked with elevation changes make SEAL infiltration much harder to counter. In either case, each side is trying to manufacture an instant where the other can't respond in time. But neither side wins on fire and maneuver alone. Sooner or later, one will create the decisive moment. That's where the right timing and the right information can end the fight in seconds. One wrong step, or a single ambush set in the right place can flip control instantly. The decisive moment usually comes when one side combines timing, terrain, and precise reconnaissance. SEALs and Marines both train specifically to create or prevent that moment. It's where a plan shifts from theory to reality, and the outcome begins tilting decisively in one direction. Both forces are working toward that window, but each is trying to shape it to their own strengths. For the Marines, that moment often comes from a concentrated assault. They build constant pressure, forcing the enemy to commit to hasty moves while hunting for a critical gap. When they find it, multiple fire teams push at once, volume of fire locking down escape lanes, overlapping sectors ensuring no blind spots, and closing range to make breaking contact difficult. The goal is to collapse the fight into one decisive exchange that leaves the enemy with no time to regroup. The SEALs look for something else entirely. They want the opposition in a place they've already mapped and prepared. A channel of mangroves, a narrow ridge corridor, or a sharp bend in a jungle trail where angles favor the ambush. Operators trained in demolitions can isolate routes or destroy key weapons at decisive moments. Both SEAL predecessors, UDTs, and modern Marines train in demolitions and direct action. Back this with hidden sniper fire, and a larger unit can be broken into smaller, exposed pockets in seconds. Awareness is what makes that possible for a smaller unit. Historically, both SEAL predecessors and Marine units were created to gather precise reconnaissance and shape landings. So, when a smaller force truly knows the battlefield, it can create the decisive moment. That's why special operators invest heavily in observation points, pre-raid mapping, and detailed knowledge of enemy movement habits long before the shooting starts. In this scenario, the SEALs seize the turning point through superior intelligence and timing. From a concealed ridge, they trigger a devastating ambush as the Marines overextend during their advance. Demolitions cripple a machine gun nest, snipers eliminate key leaders, and the squad melts away, striking again from a new angle. The Marines, suddenly disoriented and leaderless, falter under repeated precision hits, unable to regroup effectively. History shows specialized units like SEALs risk catastrophe in prolonged conventional fights without resupply, but here their stealth and adaptability turn the tide, proving smaller forces can outmaneuver larger ones with unmatched strategy. The cost of missing that window is steep. Loss of key weapons or leaders breaks cohesion fast. If cohesion collapses, even the better force can lose. Choices made in moments of confusion can either win the fight outright or set up an irreversible spiral toward defeat. And when two highly trained forces face each other, the SEALs mastery of that turning point makes the matchup unpredictable. Control often matters more than raw firepower. In the end, winning here isn't about who lands the cleaner shots or carries the heavier weapons. It's about shaping the entire fight so it plays to your strengths, whether that's crushing force or surgical precision. The SEALs, with their stealth and adaptability, seize that edge first, outmaneuvering the Marines through precise ambushes and intel-driven strikes, clinching victory in this hypothetical clash. Just remember, SEALs are sea, air, and land specialists formalized in 1962, with roots in World War II, Scouts and UDTs. Marine platoons are the Corps' conventional ground combat force with World War II heritage. Both are designed for different missions, and in reality, these forces are built to work together against common enemies, not to turn on each other. So, which side do you think could pull it off? And how would the outcome change if this fight played out in desert flats, tight city blocks, or open water approaches? Let me know in the comments. What epic what-if world would you explore next? Share your ideas below. If you loved this video, smash that like button, subscribe for more mind-blowing alternate histories, and hit the bell. Our next adventure drops soon with another game-changing twist. Catch you in another world of the wildest what-ifs.